Agada.
Mbijan raganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Korsan. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara Allah service o tariaka.
Bare
mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom yona forest de
Communication from the chair.
Good morning, good afternoon rather, honorable members. Today we are to commence the debate on the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia for the period 1st January to 31st December 2024, both days inclusive. As we are all aware, the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure was tabled by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs on Friday, 17th November 2023, and seconded by the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader and Member for Old Yundu. Thereafter, pursuant to Orders 86.6 of the Standing Orders, the sitting was adjourned to give honorable members adequate time to review the document. Accordingly, the Office of the Clerk, with support from partners, engaged members on a retreat for an expert and technical scrutiny of this important document. The estimates before us today are not mere numbers. They are a blueprint for progress, a testament to our commitment to economic prudence, social justice, and sustainable development. Crafting a budget requires foresight, diligence, and a deep understanding of the needs of our diverse population. It is a delicate balancing act wherein we must allocate resources efficiently, address pressing concerns, and invest in the future without burdening our citizens unduly. Honorable members, in addition and in accordance with Standing Order 84, various committees of this Assembly considered budgets of sector ministries and other institutions to determine and make recommendations regarding their budget allocations to FPAC. Accordingly, before the debate would commence, FPAC shall today lay their consolidated report before the Assembly, pursuant to Order 84-2B of the Standing Orders. Honorable members, this report will guide the debate as well as the Committee of Supply in the coming days. Honorable members, the earlier version of the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia for the period 1st January to 31st December 2024, both days inclusive, had slight errors, and a new version is reprinted and circulated to you all. On that note, honorable members, I wish to thank you all for your dedication and commitment to duty so far during this marathon session, which started since Friday, the 17th of November, 2023. I thank you all. Clerk, may we proceed, please?
Correction and approval of records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 17th November 2023.
Honorable members, the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 17th November 2023 is before us for consideration and approval. Can any honorable member please move that the said record of votes and proceedings be considered and approved. Honorable nominated member Maimouna Sise.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the records of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 17 November 2023 to be considered.
Thank you. Honorable members, any seconder? Honorable member for Kian Central.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 17 November 2023 be considered and approved. Honorable members, as usual, we look at the record of votes and proceedings page by page, and honorable members may want to make their observations and comments, beginning, of course, with page 1 of the report. All right, honorable members, we move to page 2. Okay. Honorable members, we can now move to page 3. Honorable members, we move to page 4. And the last page, page 5, honorable members. Woolly East.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know you made a comment, but is that the communication from the Speaker? What is in page 5? I think that was a comment, but it's not the communication that comes from you. Where is the communication?
Page 5, what are you saying, honorable member?
I'm saying the communication from the chair is part of the agenda, and you've made a communication on that day, but that is not captured, but a comment is captured on the page 5. Is that the communication from the chair? Is that all on that day?
Still not with you. You know you are on page 5. That's Friday, 17th November.
Yes.
What is missing or what should be regulated, what should be worked on that page?
No, I'm saying on the 17th, you made a comment, you made a communication.
Yeah, but
And we've agreed that any communication made by you should be distributed to all members. So I'm saying whether this comment is your communication on that day? Is that where they are going to put it now? Or they are going to give a separate...
We comment.
In accordance with Order 86.6 of the Standing Orders. Then you went on. I know that's a comment you've made, but is that the communication?
No, that is different from circulating the communication from the speaker.
Yes, so where is the
You know, if you look at page 3, am I right? Communication from the care.
Yeah.
You heard the speaker delivered a statement. Now, and I think you requested that those statements be distributed to members. Yeah, that is different from this one.
Up to now, no communication has reached us. That's what I'm telling you.
All right, okay. Clark,
So I'm still insisting that's a motion I moved here and it was passed.
Yeah, in fact, it was agreed on, if I remember well. And the table office should ensure that all communications are distributed to members. The office of the clerk will follow up. Honorable members, I want to tag them on the back. It looks like there are no corrections made on this record of votes and proceedings. Congratulations. Honorable member, it has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Friday, 17 November 2023 be approved without amendments. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk, can we continue?
Consolidated report of the Finance and Public Accounts Committee on the committee's consideration of the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia, as well as debate on the 2024 estimate of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia, 1st January to 31st December 2024, both days inclusive.
Speaker, observation before you go further.
Central Badu, what is it?
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in your introductory remarks, you made mention that the Honorable Finance Minister led a report, a budget before us, and that budget had series of errors, if I could hear you well. And that was the budget book that we went through at the retreat, and this was what we used at our committee level too. And this was what we submitted, the work that we have done, we submitted to FPAC. Now, if FPAC is coming to give us a report on a budget that has series of mistakes, I don't think we need to, in fact, listen to FPAC to give us any narration, but rather to work on the new one that has been submitted to us. Either we have a day engagement or two on that. But I don't think at this moment we can allow FPAC to give us a report on a book that has been found as error.
Honorable member, are you sure you are in contact with FPAC? Are you sure that you are in contact with
Now,
FPAC?
the report that has been submitted by FPAC too, by looking at it, there are a lot of conflict figures.
No, Honorable. Are you, your comments, are you in contact with FPAC to know if they are using the old copies which had mistakes or they have been given corrected copies?
Honorable Speaker, this, as you said, these are the copies that has been circulated to us. And we work as committees. And we made our submission to FPAC from the old copy that you said have errors. This is what I'm saying. So whether I speak with them or not, it's the documents that speak.
I agree with you, but you see, those documents could still be corrected by FPAC. It's just a correction of mistakes. It can be corrected. So, but what I'm saying is, in fact, before those statements are made, you could have consulted FPAC, and they will have advised or told you, and then you will take in the floor. FPAC, can you, where is the chairman? FPAC, can we have you?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. For the information of the August Assembly, the FPAC received a letter from the Minister of Finance. I beg to read the letter. To the Clerk, National Assembly Building, dear Clerk, submission of draft estimate of revenues and expenditures for 2024. The 21st November 2023. I write to inform you that there was an error with printing of draft estimate of revenues and expenditures. A final decision was taken to incorporate the comments of Cabinet following their deliberations on the draft budget on Wednesday, 15th November 2023. The revised estimate with amendments was submitted to GBBC on Thursday, 16th November 2023. Due to limited time constraints, the risk of human errors is likely to happen. It is important to note that two versions of the draft budget were shared with GBC, where they mistakenly printed out the first versions that did not contain the comments of Cabinet. Please be informed that the budget statement delivered by the Honorable Minister during the laying of the draft estimate on Friday, 17 November 2020, contained the correct estimate of revenues and expenditures. Please find attached the amendments that were included in the revised draft estimate. Thank you for your usual support and understanding. This letter is informing that there was error. However, with the error on the text that was given, the subcopy that was also available and the minister's statements contain the correct version of the budget estimates at the time of the laying. Now, what FPAC did was to advise them to provide the corrected hard copy to the plenary. And then the attachments that were advanced noted the under-mentioned institutions that were affected. It's not general. And these were Office of the President for only 2 budget lines, Upkeep of State Guard and Building Structures. Ministry of Defense for only 1 budget line, Food and Food Services. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 2 budget lines, Contribution to Local Organization and Welfare of Gambians. Ministry of Health, Drugs, Dressing and Medical Supplies, as well as consultancy and hospitals, clinics, and health facilities. Then Ministry of Environment, Contribution to International Organizations, and Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, ICT infrastructure, hardware, network, and facilities, and purchase of generator. Finally, the Ministry of Public Service, well, boreholes, and water points. A total of 500 million was the difference when the corrections are done. So these were the institutions that were affected. At the level of the FPAC, all institutions that fall under our purview, we have done the necessary correction. Now, for other committees that were affected, we were made to understand these copies were given to them so that they can also take note of those errors. Now, the effective corrections can be done at the level of the consideration. When we are doing the consideration and the report presented by FPAC, you can look at it. If your ministry or your institution is affected, whatever correction you want to do, you can do the correction.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman of FPAC and Minority Leader. Honorable Majority Leader, Member for Kantora.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to align myself with the submission made. The business before us here is to debate on the consolidated report of FPAC, having interacted with the ministry about the slight error that happened during the printout. And also noting that the debate or the speech by the minister was factored on the quoted version. And the soft copy presented to Parliament has the quoted version. The only error that happened was at the printing stage. So basically, having been engaged with FPAC and the tidy up, our debate is based on the submission on the report of the FPAC to the plenary. This is where we should focus on.
Honorable members, I am not opening a debate. I am not opening a debate. We have heard from the complaint from Central Badibu, and we have heard the response from the chairman of FPAC. I think what we can do now, honorable members, is as we move to the committee of the whole house, you will raise some of your concerns, and then Parliament would then be able, because all committee works are subject to plenary finalization. You see, I don't want a debate. If at most what we can do, because
you want
if
a
I
suggestion?
give, no.
Suggestion now.
Yeah, but if I give you the floor, what it means is I will have to be continuing giving people floor. And that will not be. So one of two things.
It's not debate, please. It's not debate. Hear us, please. It's not
if
debate.
I hear you, that's your debate. That's your side of the story.
No, it's not debate that we are going into debate, but we are here to make correction. Please.
This is what I'm saying, Honorable Member of Central Badibu. I agree with you. You are trying to help us carve a way out. But if you have your opinion to way out, somebody will come out with an opinion the way out. And Honorable, just be patient. And then that will lead us into a debate, which I don't want. At best, what I could do is to put it to a vote. But otherwise, I don't want a debate to take after all this time for us to take. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, Honorable Member of Central Badibu. What is your opinion? What is the way forward?
All right. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with a document that is life of the Gambian people. Honorable Speaker, this document is our life. Everybody. Gambians, we are here to represent them. Majority leader cannot just say just a mistake. I'm very disappointed from him.
Please say, Honorable, I told you this is not a debate.
Please.
If you are going to attack people, the person will have to defend. And you don't avoid that. What is the way forward?
Sit down.
It's disappointing. I'm saying that.
Honorable Central Badibu. Please, Central Badibu.
Sit down.
Central Badibu.
Sit down. You are not giving the floor.
You are not giving the floor. Sit down. You are not giving the floor.
Honorable Member for Central Badibu.
Sit down. I am not giving the floor.
Honorable Member, Central Badibu.
Let him sit down. He's not giving the floor.
You are not to tell him to sit down.
Yes, but he should sit down.
No, keep quiet first.
Sit down.
No, on your orders.
Sit down.
Withdraw that.
Sit down.
Honorable Member.
Sit down too.
Please don't sit down.
Sit down.
Majority, sit down.
I will only sit down of your mind. You are not giving floor. You are not giving floor.
You can't talk like my friend, get away.
Central Badibu.
Please.
Central Badibu. Central Badibu. Central Badibu. You are the cause of the problem. I don't like people who like to misbehave indefinitely as matured as you are. I have given you an opportunity out of many not to create confusion. No, listen, just listen, please. No, just listen. I asked you no debate. If you talk and then comment and attack people, what do you expect? No, you are attacking somebody. No. I told you, Honorable Member, Central Badibu, I told you beforehand, I am not encouraging debate. And I told you beforehand, the best we can do is to make a determination by vote. I gave you a chance because you raised the issue to carve a way forward. You came out blaming people. I'm not giving you a chance again. Not again. Honorable Minority Leader. Member FPAC, are you satisfied with your report that your report is born out of the corrections made, or is a report based on false figures?
For FPAC, all the institutions that are under us, we have done the necessary correction because we got this information in advance and we worked according to that. And we were informed that the said institutions also will be given the copies for them to act on. And I can, the report that we got from all the institutions, we have not seen any abnormality.
Motion.
Honorable members,
Motion.
hearing the member for the chairman of FPAC.
Motion.
Somebody is shouting at the end there. Huh? Yeah, okay. So, honorable members, as I said, FPAC report is to be tabled. And FPAC has just told us that their report is born out of the correct figures. Now, if other members or committees find out in the report at the committee stage that the figures they gave are different, they can come out with it. I therefore now call
Motion. He's not putting any vote. He's coming to do that. No, he's calling you to come and read.
Listen to me.
Honorable members, the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure was tabled by the Honorable Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs. And seconded by the Deputy Majority Leader and Member for Old Yundum constituency on the 17th of November 2023. We are to commence the debate on the said draft estimates. In view of that, may I now call on the Honorable Chairperson of FPAC to table the consolidated report in accordance with Orders 84-2B for the consideration and debate proper on the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia. Honorable Chairperson, please.
Point of order.
Can I hear your point of order?
53K. A motion. I'm moving a motion. Understanding order, yes?
No, 53, you are saying a point. Honorable, no arguments, please. You are making a point of order. And now you are telling me you are moving a motion. You cannot do that.
Honorable Speaker,
a point of order means something abnormal has happened, not within the standing orders. And that's what you want to identify and make reference to. Honorable it's not Speaker, an intent to do something. Honorable Majority Leader, Minority Leader, can you continue?
Honorable Speaker, motion. Honorable Speaker, point of order that I'm raising, the point of order will give, you decide either to give me right to raise up with motion. So I'm on track. 53K is saying that before I rise on motion, I have to call your attention. And this is what I'm doing. So that's why I say point of order. Point of order is not only when you want to address issue. No, you can call the attention of the Speaker.
No, Honorable, you are wrong. That is not correct.
Wrong.
A point of order.
I'm not wrong.
A point of order is when something is going out of order.
Of course.
Honorable Speaker, point of order. Honorable Speaker, point of order.
Honorable.
No. Honorable Speaker, point of order.
Honorable member for Central Badibu. A point of order is something that is going out of order. And two, when there is a point of order and there is a ruling right or wrong, that is what I'm saying is either not in order.
Is I want to raise up a motion. You refuse. So that's why I'm calling your attention to this section of the standing order.
Honorable, your greatest problem is you don't want to respect the care, and two, you like to argue unnecessarily. You see, even if I am wrong, just hold on, please. Please. No, even if I am wrong as Speaker, there is a way to address it. Because my ruling is final. No, yes, if it is not in order, Honorable, listen. If it is not in order, you have a process to go through. It's not to challenge me.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker. Point of order.
No, that's not the process.
No,
that is not the process.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
What I'm saying is, if the Speaker is wrong, you have a way of making it right. It's not to challenge it. You cannot challenge it. Honorable member for Brikama North and chairman of FPAC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, motion.
Consolidated report.
You should listen to people because
the finance.
We don't listen to this report when we have different reports. When we have different book.
We
don't know which book are we dealing with.
Consideration of the 2024
motion
of revenue and expenditure of the
Honorable Speaker
of the Gambia.
Honorable Speaker.
November 2023. The second page.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker.
Contents.
Point of order.
And the table of content continue in the second page. The third page, honorable members, refer to introduction in accordance with section 152
Honorable member,
of the
1977
Constitution.
There is somebody speaking on the floor.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs has tabled for consideration and approval by the National Assembly the estimate of revenues, recurrent development expenditures for the Republic of the Gambia for the fiscal year 2024 on Friday, 17 November 2023. Standing orders 81-1, 81, 84-1, and 2 mandate committees of the National Assembly to scrutinize and make recommendations on the draft estimate of revenue and expenditure. The findings of the various committees should be submitted to the Finance and Public Accounts Committee, FPAC, to lay a consolidated report together with a motion for debate. It is against this background that the Finance and Public Accounts Committee, FPAC, prepared this consolidated report on the submission of various committees for the consideration of the plenary. The methodology in scrutinizing the budget for the NBEs, the committees were guided by the resolution adopted by the National Assembly during its pre-budget retreat, that is, to consider reducing the budget deficit of 4.45 billion, representing 2.55% of the nominal GDP, and savings made should be reallocated to sectors. However, committees were cautioned not to reduce budget lines that could have negative impact on the operation of the government. Honorable Minister, the findings. The committees met with the various ministries, departments, and agencies to defend their submission as per estimate. MDAs highlighted resource gap in comparison with their mandates. Almost all budget entities carry out the limited monthly cash allocations, which directly impacted their productivity. However, considering the limited resource envelope, coupled with the 4.45 billion budget deficit, committees could not make significant changes on the budget. based on submission from the various committees, FPAC recommends that the Assembly do consider and approve the estimate of revenue and expenditure of the government for the fiscal year 2024 as amended and detailed below. Finance and Public Accounts Committee, FPAC. The Ministry of Finance, during its tabling of the estimate before FPAC, indicated errors from the submission made to the National Assembly on some budget entities and implore on FPAC to take note of the revised submission. See Appendix 1 for details. The Office of the President, there was no savings under the OP's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocation to priority budget line as indicated on the attack addendum. Equally, there was no savings under OBP's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget line as indicated on the attack addendum. National Assembly, the committee recommends a total reduction of 15,800,000 from the National Assembly's budget. Furthermore, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum. For judiciary, the committee recommends a total reduction of 74,300,000 from the judicial submission. The committee recommends some reallocation to priority budget lines as indicated in the attack addendum. The Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, the committee recommends a total reduction of 48,582,500 from the IEC's budget. Furthermore, the committee recommends reallocation to priority budget lines as indicated on the attack addendum. And for the National Audit Office, the committee recommends a total reduction of 36,583,000 and from the submission of NAO, and then recommends reallocation to priority budget line as indicated in the addendum. Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, honorable members, I want to refer you to the page that is earlier on submitted regarding the correction being made on that. Page 5. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. The committee recommends a total reduction of 83,554,000 from the ministry's budget, and then recommends the allocation of the priority budget as indicated. And for Ombudsman, the committee recommends a total reduction of 14,470,000 and recommends the allocation to priority budget lines. Sorry. The committee recommends a total reduction of 1,470,000. I'm sorry for that. And recommends relocation to priority budget line. And then under Ombudsman, there should be centralized service where the committee recommends a total reduction of 220 and then further recommends relocation to priority budget lines. Then we continue with the text proper. The Ministry of Public Service, the Administrative Reforms and Policy Coordination. There was no saving under the Ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends relocation to priority budget as indicated in the attack addendum. And then for the Standing Committee on Defense and Security, Ministry of Defense, there was no saving under the Ministry's budget, and the committee recommends relocation to priority budget lines indicated in the addendum. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Defense revise the range and rate ceiling for GAF officers to 150,000 maximum to cater for more officers. For the Ministry of Interior, there was no saving under the budget, and then the committee recommends relocation to priority budget indicated in the attack addendum. And then they further recommend that 3,575,000 to be allocated to arms and ammunition from the amount that was saved from the ministry's budget. Select Committee on Tourism, Culture, Youth and Sports. On the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, no reduction or reallocation on the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends to approve the budget as submitted by the ministry and make the further recommendation that to allocate some funds to the ministry to procure vehicle and furniture for the proposed new Deputy Permanent Secretary too. On the Ministry of Youth and Sports, there was no saving made under the ministry's budget, and the committee recommends relocation to priority budget lines as indicated in the addendum, and further recommends to reallocate 10 million from the budget line of the sporting material to purchase vehicles for the Honorable Ministry's Permanent Secretary and Deputy Permanent Secretary Technical. For the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad, the committee recommends a total reduction of $4,092,000 from the ministry's budget. However, the committee further recommends relocation to priority budget line and as indicated on the addendum. For the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters, for the Ministry of Justice, there was no saving made under the ministry's budget, and the committee recommends relocation to priority budget lines as indicated on the addendum. And the National Human Rights Commission, there was no reduction or reallocation on the commission's budget, and the committee recommends to approve the budget as submitted by the commission, and further recommends that the budget estimate, the submission of the commission should be maintained by the Ministry of Finance to support its operation. Then for the Select Committee on Regional Government, Lands and Ombudsman and IEC, the Ministry of Land and Regional Government, there was no savings made under the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocation to priority budget line as indicated on the attached addendum, and recommends, 1, that the remuneration of the traditional chiefs be upgraded to suit their status so as to mitigate the challenges they are facing. 2, that the mobility constraint of the traditional chiefs be looked into. Therefore, there is a need to provide each chief a vehicle. That the salary for the badge messengers of the chiefs should be promulgated. And for the Select Committee on Environment, Sustainable Development and NGO Affairs, the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Wildlife, there was no savings under the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget line as indicated on the attached addendum, and made the following recommendations. 1, that the government should review the vehicle policy that was adopted by the National Assembly and restrict the officials entitled to official vehicles to only the minister and the permanent secretary. All other officials should be provided with a loan facility to purchase their own vehicles to be deducted on monthly basis. That the fuel allocation should be determined and made uniform for all ministers and peers. That the government should come up with an air ticketing policy for the procurement of airfares for MDAs. And the Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources, there was no savings under the ministry's budget, and the committee recommends the allocation to priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum. The Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, no reduction or reallocation on the ministry's budget, and the committee recommends that the budget be approved as submitted. On Select Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, the Ministry of Agriculture, there was no saving under the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget line as indicated on the attached addendum. For the Select Committee on Monitoring of Government's Budget, the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, there was no savings under the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocation to priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum, and that all statutory agreements on the disbursement of interim payment certificates should be honored to avoid further financial penalties on the government, the committee recommends. Select Committee on Trade Regional Integration. For the Ministry of Trade, Regional Integration and Employment, the committee recommends a total reduction of 669,493 from the ministry's budget and recommends reallocation to priority budget lines, as indicated in the addendum. And the Select Committee on Education, Training and ICT, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, there was no savings on the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocation to priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum. And for the Ministry of Information, the ministry did not appear before the committee to defend its budget, and therefore the committee did not review its budget. The Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, there was no savings on the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget lines as indicated on the addendum, and recommends that for scholarship for the tertiary education should be wholly handled by the ministry and the budget lines augmented to ensure areas owed to the University of the Gambia and the Gambia College and GTI are settled. So the training budget line under all ministries should be consolidated under PMOs so that they can manage the training of the civil servant across all ministries. And 3, the education levy collected by GRA should be distributed between NAGA and the Ministry of Higher Education for the support of Tibet, which is expanding yearly. And 4, there is a need to review the entire membership to international organizations by the government and centralized where possible, as ministries and other agencies each have a special budget line, and these memberships must be defined and approved by an authority based on the value we get. And 5, the research budget lines need to centralize and manage by the Ministry of Higher Education. Research is under their purview. At present, it seems most ministries have a budget line called research, but we can't tell what it is being used for. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, the committee recommends that the ministry's budget be approved as submitted. And for the Select Committee on Health, Disaster, Refugees and Humanitarian Relief, for the Ministry of Health, there was no saving on the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocation to the priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum. Recommendations, the committee further recommends as follows. 1, that the Ministry of Finance create development budget line for the hospitals, and the Ministry of Finance provide funds for operation of National Health Insurance and Authority. And 3, that the Ministry of Finance should ensure that all councils under the Ministry of Health should receive their subvention as budgeted for the estimate. The Select Committee on Gender, Children, Social Welfare, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, there was no savings on the ministry's budget. However, the committee recommends reallocations to priority budget lines as indicated on the attached addendum. Honorable members, we further provide you the summary of the total savings. Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, 83,554,000. Centralized Service, 220 million. The National Assembly, 15,800. The Judiciary, 74,300. National Audit Office, 36,583,000. Independent Electoral Commission, 48,582,500. Ombudsman, 1,470,000. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad, 4,092,000. And the Ministry of Trade, Regional Integration and Employment, 669,493. Conclusion and recommendation. Following the careful review of the budget submissions from the various institutions, ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, and having carefully considered the various recommendations put forward by the various committees, noting that the government continued to operate with a deficit of 4.45 billion and FPAC's commitment to reduce the budget deficit without adversely affecting the operation of the MDAs, the committee therefore recommends as follows. 1, the Ministry of Finance urgently implement a revenue review across government institutions, particularly self-raised revenues by the MDAs to improve on domestic revenue mobilization and furnish FPAC on its findings. 2, the National Audit Office consider conducting a revenue audit across the MDAs. 3, that the National Assembly consider separating finance as a stand-alone committee from FPAC to focus on budget and other related financial matters. 4, that Ministry of Finance critically consider improving the revenue base, particularly maximizing on the extractive industry and fisheries sectors. 5, that the total reduction made should be maintained towards reducing the deficit. And 6, that the government should honor its contractual obligations with its institutions to avoid accumulation debts. And finally, 7, that going forward, the Ministry of Finance must not change the submitted budget of the independent institutions as dictated by the Constitution. On that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of FPAC. Any seconder, honorable members? Honorable member for Brikama South.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion. And equally, I want to seize this opportunity to take part in the debate. Honorable Speaker, the business before us is to debate on the FPAC report and that of the budget submitted to us by the Minister. If you look at the draft estimate of the 2024, there are areas of concern that I want to take part and inquire from the Minister and also to talk about certain areas, particularly when you look at the revenue component, both tax and non-tax component of the 2024 estimate. Honorable Speaker, the document the Honorable Minister presented to us on the tax and non-tax revenue, there is a significant jump in terms of revenue, a tune of 5 billion. I am a little bit worried whether actually this will be attainable. Sometimes we have an issue with regards to the budget, particularly if the budget is not realistic. We find it very difficult to deliver to the people in terms of the development component. One significant area, since the budget is approved based on a component and bilateral has been done by the Ministry of Finance and respective MDAs. Upon approval, upon table to the Parliament and is approved, we expect that's a budget line. So if there is a disparity gap, it's always a problem. And I know for the ministries, they prepare their annual activity plan. So on monthly basis or quarterly basis, they expect a disbursement for implementation. And if there is an issue of the problem with the collection, you don't expect them to implement to the latter. There is one thing we need to understand. From the SDG, this also trickles down to the NDP. From the NDP, it goes to the ministries. And the ministries have their specific blueprint that will address a fundamental problem of the country. So if there is a question of the realistic nature of the budget, this really affects our development and the service delivery. So I want the minister to explain the significant jump from 2023 to 2024, 5 billion, whether this is actually attainable. And bilateral is done based on this and is approved, is going to be approved based on this. whether that will really impact as expected. Two, Honorable Speaker, I want to inquire from the Honorable Minister. The state-owned enterprises in the 2023 budget constitute 360 million as dividend, and this time is completely zero. I don't know why, when actually there were a lot of performance contracts signed between some state-owned enterprises and the government. And the issue of the dividend is not forthcoming, I cannot understand. Since, in fact, we have enacted a law for a commission to be established. That is already established, they are functional. So we expect going forward, since they have contributed, because 250 is coming from the central bank, 100 million is coming from GPA and 10 million from GNPC. But right now it's 0-0. What is going on? This is something that we need an explanation why. And the other one I want to talk about, the issue of PE, the personal emolument. If you look at it, Honorable Minister, there is this increment from 6.1 to 7.43. I don't know what unplanned recruitment are going to take place, but how many people are we expecting? So this is a significant jump, more than $1 billion. So this is something that we have to look at it. And we need an explanation to convince the Gambian actually why this significant jump from 6.10 to 7.43. Honorable Speaker, I want to look at the issue of agricultural allocation. There is a significant, there is a slight improvement from the GLF component, from 722 to 844 million. But even if you look at that, there is this 62 million for development, 782 for recurrent. But if you come to the entire budget line, where we have the total allocation for agriculture, it's like 2,563 million. I think this is a significant one. But primarily coming from the projects. Honorable Minister, I'm a little bit worried about who designed these projects. Is it the donors or the government? Are we taking part in designing of these projects? Particularly the operational cost versus the target beneficiary. And interestingly, I don't know whether you have an idea of these projects operating outside the main Ministry of Agriculture, under the central project coordinating unit. And this is where we have the problem. Even you, when you come to allocation, you think that all what they are having goes to the projects. And these projects, remember, are contracted by government, either in loans and grants for the Gambians. But implementing it outside with this type of operational cost, that is why a project will phase out. You cannot even discover a footprint of each of these projects. Only the fleet of vehicles that are going to be left. And this is a problem. And agriculture cannot be on a farm footing unless we take a drastic approach in order to bring it into the mainstream. And we take part, even if whereas it is coming, the design is done by the donors. We are only looking at our interests, whether this will impact positively for us to put food on the table. But if we don't do that, we forget about this issue. Because in fact, it's constraining us. People are going to pay these loans that are brought in on behalf of agriculture. So as a country, every stakeholder needs a specific approach to agri. We cannot say this is the settled practice. We have to change it. So without changing it is a major problem. Because you have a lot of things that need to be corrected, especially when you come to these projects. A huge amount is spent. It's about 2 billion plus that is spent on the agriculture. And up till today, how much are we importing to feed this nation? So this is something that we have to look at. We bring it back to the mainstream agriculture. You have those people, look at the extension to farmer ratio. They are redundant, these things. And that is why there is this secondment. They will go and resign, they will go to the projects. When the project phase out, they come back. So let us maintain it in the main ministry and build up the capacity to monitor these things. And the monitoring should be everybody's business. Because a good chunk of loan comes to this area. and we have to look at it. Okay, even though there is a deduction for centralized service, I was looking at page, but the FPAC has worked on that. Honorable Minister, I think there is something also we need to understand. Before I move to, I just want to clear, under agriculture, in your statement, you laid emphasis their contribution to GDP, that is 25%, but primarily coming from crops and those things. But if you come to the budget, especially 46 of page 46, where you have collecting agencies by different ministries, agriculture is contributing about, last year is about 2 million plus. But this particular year, there is only 300,000, and this is primarily coming from livestock. And livestock has been never mentioned in your statement. This is the second statement where livestock is mentioned, and it's the only performing sector in the agricultural sector. And there is, if you look at centralized service, you have this input subsidy that help to procure fertilizer and provide seeds. But the groundnut we are producing, when that groundnut that is procured by GGC, and this is exported outside, how much are we getting as foreign exchange? And that has to be captured. But this is never captured. It's only the livestock aspect that is already that is always captured on the budget. So we have to look at that. And in order to connect it to the foreign affairs issue, and if you look at the foreign service, we think a lot of money because it's always in billions, 1 point something million, sometimes to 2 billion. But what is their impact? Why is it? What are they bringing in terms of scholarships? And again, what are we getting in terms of grant, in terms of loan? What is foreign affairs doing? And this needs to be fully communicated to the Gambia so that we can look at it if we want to prioritize more. Because these are areas that we have to make sure that we even go for an inventory and look at it, every foreign service, what is their impact in terms of performance. They need to be known. Because sometimes if you want to do these things, members will have a different thought because they are not directly dealing with the ministry. But actually a lot is going on outside there. But we have to definitely convince one another to know the impact. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at that of the Honorable Minister, if you look at the deficits, which is primarily going to be financed through domestic borrowing, though there is a significant attempt to reduce it, but if you look at it compared to 2023, that is 2.7 billion, that is financed through domestic borrowing. But in 2024, it's about 3.27 billion. So this is an area where we have to look at it. How do we avoid these things? We expect, because this domestic borrowing component constrains the citizenry, particularly the civil and the public service. How do we empower the private sector? Because currently, the only player in the economy is the government. So the private sector don't have the right capacity. But if we keep on selling T-bills through domestic borrowing, the commercial banks sit at their comfort zones at the end of their period, either 6 or 1 year, they get their millions without doing anything. So if you go there as a civil servant, you want to take a loan to invest, you find it very difficult. The interest rates are high. And it's not only that, they also demand collateral. These are title deals of your compounds. If you fail, you end up losing those compounds. So how can we grow the private sector? These are things that is very, very, very worrying. And we have to work on this thing and avoid it completely. We know we have the potential. And since we have this jump from the total revenue, what you are asking, the GRA to collect from 17 billion to 22 billion. It's a significant jump. And how do you measure this? How do you know that they have the capacity to collect these things? So those are things that we need to understand very well. Because if you look at the jump, it's very high. And annually, we are increasing these things. But we need to know the actual revenue potential of this country, without which we'll have a problem. Finally, Honorable Minister, I definitely want you to look at this particular area as far as the budget structure is concerned. Annually, we are battling to sustain our economy, year in, year out. Are you thinking, as the principal advisor to the president, to advise him on issues pertaining to economic and finance of this country? Because if you look at it, why can't we go in for improvement of our economy so that we can liquidate the economy to allow more recruitment, especially in the youthful sector, to avoid this backward syndrome? Because these are issues. There is nobody in this country who can advise. Are you in agreement that we have to grow from struggling to maintain our economy and improve upon it by investing into the productive sector, to make the economy liquid, to do more recruitment, to avoid, so that this can avoid these things. It can avoid the issue of illegal migration. There is nobody, and you have your permanent secretaries that are very much aware of these things. So you are there to advise the president. Are you in any way, or do you have this at the back of your mind that you must advise the president so that next time we can avoid this type of deficits and make sure that we go in for the actual development of our economy? Developmental budgeting should come into play. So this is what I want to challenge you finally before I sit. So I want to challenge you to advise the president going forward, particularly 2025. Let us completely forget about this budget structure and come out with a new structure that will definitely provide our economy to be liquid by investing into the productive sector. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Brikama South. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that this August Assembly do consider the consolidated report of the Finance and Public Accounts on the findings and recommendations of committees of the National Assembly on the 2024 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia for the period 1st to 31st December 2024. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, at this juncture, I will now invite any honorable members who wishes to take part in the debate to raise his or her constituency tag to be recorded and be given the floor to speak. However, before allowing any honorable member to take the floor, I want to remind ourselves of the scope of the debate. Under Order 31 of the Standing Orders, which reads, debate upon any motion or amendment to a motion, or upon any bill, part of a bill or amendment to a bill, shall be relevant thereto, except in the case for motion for the debate on the adjournment of the Assembly. In addition, Order 86.7 of the same standing orders do guide us on how to debate on the annual estimates. And it reads, the debate on the motion shall be confined to the estimates and the explanatory statement and the reported findings and recommendations of the Assembly committees and the Finance and Public Accounts Committee's consolidated report of the Assembly committees, consideration of the draft budget. I therefore appeal to honorable members to respect and observe the said provisions of our own standing orders. I thank you very much. May I now invite the honorable member for Old Yundum constituency to have the floor.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are dealing with the 2024 budget estimate for the Gambia. As you alluded in, on the 17th of November, when the minister tabled the budget here, we went out for a retreat. Experts were there to give us information about all the budget or ministries that are highlighted in the budget. And then we were able to ask as many questions as we could to acquaint ourselves with the figures that were allocated for each ministry and what those figures are for. I think from the retreat, particularly me, I was convinced with a lot of budget lines that we scrutinized during the retreat. And then the job of FPAC has even given me more, confidence that a lot has been done, given the fact that we were trying to cut the deficit of the Gambia from 4.4 billion. The amount that is deducted from the entire budget from FPAC, we commend you for that good job. At least it's not much, but it has reduced something from the deficit. Because we all know the budget that we have, even though the deficit is high, but that is what Gambia can have as well. We can have more, but when we want to have more, it means we have to increase more taxes, and that becomes a problem for us. So I am convinced in that area. But Honorable Speaker, I have to raise this concern because the minister is here. I concur with my colleague, member for Brikama South, with regards to the budget structure of the Gambia. I think the issue of incremental budgeting, we need to look at it very critically because that is denying a lot of critical ministries to get the allocation that they require. A ministry like Youth and Sports, maybe in the past it must have been a dormant ministry, but currently it's a critical ministry as far as our governance is concerned. We need to be prepared to resource this ministry. Whether they have good programs or not, we will engage them more. But if you look at the subvented institutions that they are giving monies to, have very critical programs for the young people in this country. But a meager resource is allocated for the ministry for those subvented institutions, and I think we need to consider that. Institutions like National Youth Council, which is very important for our young people. We all know their job. We have had a series of engagement with them on their activity reports and their financial statements. But if you look at the programs that they have, we cannot fund them. Not because we cannot, but because we are not giving them adequate resources to be able to fund those programs. So I think we need to consider those areas. National Youth Service Scheme, that has just given birth a new program. I think they also need more resources. NEDI also need more resources. Currently, they are, helping a lot of backward returnees. They are empowering young people in their businesses. So the amount that I am seeing for the other charges is very small, to be honest. It's very, very small. I mean, I think in whole, giving the Ministry of Youth and Sport 122 million is way below. It's way below. We are not expecting 122 million. We are expecting at least 200 million for the Ministry of Youth and Sports. In my own capacity, I'm not seeing any other ministry more important than this sector. The resources that we are giving them is way too small. And I think from this budget, 2025, we need to reconsider. We will do more advocacy to see that money is given to Minister of Youth and Sport, especially in 2024 when Gambia is going to African Cup of Nations. We have not seen anything in that budget line. How do we intend to support the national team to play in the AFCON? I understand the sports levy is there, but would that cater for the problems of the Gambia at the African Cup of Nations? We are playing volleyball, international competitions. No money is allocated for those sectors. So I think we need to re-strategize and see when we are putting money for Ministry of Youth and Sports. These are two sectors. The youth component is there, but the youth sector is also there. We give them more resources so that they can empower young people. Sports now is very lucrative. We have seen young people, becoming professionals, and they are getting something out of sports. But it has to start with us. We need to set the pace. We need to set the ground for them so that, they can climb on the ladder and be where they want to be. But as far as I'm concerned, that area is very insignificant. I think if we cannot do much this budget, my chairperson and all other members in the youth committee, we need to start the advocacy now. We need to ensure that in 2025 budget, whether government like it or not, they need to have at least 200 million in their budget. They need to have programs for the young people. I mean, we are all youths. We are representing them in the parliament, but what are we giving them at the end of the day? I have been here for almost 7 years, but every year when I come, the budget line for the Minister of Youth and Sport is below 109 million, 111 million. That is where it is pegged. So, can you just allow me? The programs are there. What I'm saying is, the subvented institutions must be given more money because they have the programs. They have the program. The subvented institutions have the program. So we will have to increase the subvention to allow them to create more programs for the young people. Not the ministry directly, because the ministry is just a coordinating ministry. So is the subvented institution like National Sports Council, National Youth Council, NEDI, and other sectors, we need to give them more money. Those people have programs for the young people. That is where we need to put the focus on, and not the minister and permanent secretary per se. So, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, that area, I think we need to look at it. This budget probably might have passed because, we have made a resolution, but 2025, we will have to advocate for that, even before the budget comes. And I want you to consider that before 2025, at least 175 million should be allocated for Minister of Youth and Sports. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Old Yundum. Honorable members, let me refer you all to Standing Order 21. Let's try and allow members contributing, give them peace to contribute their quota. Don't obstruct people. Please. I now invite the Honorable Member for Woodley East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we thank the Minister of Finance for coming up with this proposal. Again, we should help us to move this country. The objective is to move the country from where we are so that we'll be able to transform it to a better country. Not only for those who are here, but for the whole country. That should be our primary objective. And I believe the Honorable Minister is looking forward to that. Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Finance told us 2023 that the objective of the estimates or the budget was anchored on renewed commitment to strengthen domestic resource mobilization to support the provision of quality, essential services in agriculture, education, health, infrastructure development, to promote a more inclusive and resilient growth. That was last year. And that was the objective of the 2023 budget. So we are scrutinizing and we are playing oversight. We should be able to ask ourselves whether we are satisfied that that objective has been attained. Again, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Minister told us that he has the same objective actually reduce the deficit and to increase resource mobilization, domestic resource mobilization. Those are two areas that I could capture. But, Honorable Speaker, we know that if you really want to reduce budget deficit, you need to cut down on spending and find ways of raising revenue. And this should be a serious fiscal policy, that the objective is to reduce deficit, and then you must reduce expenditure. You must reduce spending. But we know if you don't reduce spending, whatever deficit you incur each year is added to the debt of the country, the national debt. And that's why throughout all these years, the deficits that we have been accumulating have been piling up and increasing the national debt. And as a result, the debt interest payment also continually increase. This is why we are now paying 7 billion or 7.5 billion Dalasi as debt interest payment. If we had not put the amortization there, we would have put 5.11, according to the minister. But now it's 7.49 billion. So how do we control this? Can we say that this is really a plan that can sustain the debt? Can we say that this will be a sustained development process? I have my doubts on that. That's why I always ask for the trajectory that we are taking. Because since 2017, the ministers that come before us keep on saying we want to reduce deficit, we want to reduce expenditure. But every time we come here, we experience that they come with more expenditure than even the one that is laid before us. So we must factor that. Honorable Speaker, it is common sense that government spends more, if government spends more than it receives as income, it will incur deficit. And if your trade, external trade, your imports also outweigh your exports, you still incur deficit. So that should be the plan. How do we increase our income from exports? How do we maximize our gains from export? And how do we reduce the imports? If we cannot do that, then we are not solving the problem. We are just pushing the problem to the future generation. Honorable Speaker, according to the minister, the GDP ratio was 83% for 2022. But I believe now it has passed that. It is moving us to 100% of GDP. You can correct me. But if it is 100% of GDP, or even more, it means that we are not making progress. That is not making progress. That should always be reduced. One can argue that, no, it's not the amount of money that you mentioned because of inflation, because of this, but when it comes to percentages, they don't lie. So 100% or even 80% is still very high, in terms of trying to regulate. Honorable Speaker, we are also told that the high interest rate on debt is as a result of the monetary policy committee rate of the central bank, which has risen to 17%. That's what we are told. If the interest rate is increased continually, how do we control inflation? And the minister wants to convince us that inflation too will be reduced, prices will go down. I don't know how that can happen. If the tax is increased by something like 20 or 24%, and then the interest rate at the central bank, MPC rate, is also increased. And this is what investors are going to borrow and then invest and then come back to sell to us, either in services or so. I don't see how we can reduce inflation in that. So that is something that we have to look at also. Now, if you look at the minister's statement on point 35, he said the deficit reduction strategy is anchored on robust domestic mobilization. Like I said, instead of tabling the assets, because assets recycling has been mentioned, but the agreement has not been brought here. So it means that it's embedded in the budget for approval. And my problem is if it is not brought for approval and it is in the budget, we approve the budget, but then the agreement comes and we disagree when everything is factored in the income. How do we deal with that? Is that not going to distort the whole budget disbursement process? Because if you factor something which is huge and eventually is not approved, how do you actually disburse to other people? How do you make up the difference when it is not factored? So, now, if you look at the projected revenue, which stands in for 2024, is at 28.7 billion. And we have increased the expenditure to 34.9 billion. So which means the expenditure is, like I said, is increasing. And the deficit payment also is increasing. The interest rate is also shooting up. Now, if you look at from 1985 to date, we are doing the same budget process, same type of budget process. And it's leading us nowhere but to more and more debt and more interest payment. Because if you look at the interest payment now, it's more than health, education, and another ministry. We could put 3 ministries together. So if the objective is to make those ministries to be efficient in their services, but debt interest payment alone is covering all that. It's more than all the 3 ministries or sectors. Then we can know that we are really falling into more and more problems. And that should be the responsibility of the minister to ensure that we reduce that. And I know this year is 7.5 billion debt interest payment. But we have also done some calculation to arrange with the donors or the lenders to push the payment. And those payments, we expect them to be mature maybe by next year or the year after that. So if we don't become prudent, it means that we can expect to pay more than 7.5 next year, or even maybe pay 10 billion as interest payment. Is that sustainable? It's not sustainable. So if it is not sustainable, then we have to start thinking about it. Now, how does the government intend to improve domestic revenue collection? He mentioned asset recycling. But even though he did not mention the Senegambia Bridge, I've not seen Senegambia Bridge there, but I know when you mention asset recycling, all of us will be thinking about Senegambia Bridge. So we may be able to collect something from Senegambia Bridge, but maybe in the next 25 years, according to the news that we've all had, we will not receive anything from Senegambia Bridge, or very little from Senegambia Bridge. So that is asset recycling. We should be able to cut our deficit to the extent that we'll be able to manage our economy, manage our expenditure without having to, mortgage our assets. That would be a better arrangement than mortgaging assets to be able to mobilize domestic revenue, be able to plow it back to some other places. I believe that would have been a better arrangement. But asset recycling, what we have to learn, really, Honorable Speaker, is that we must be able to learn to manage our own resources. Because by doing that, we are developing skills for our people. We are developing the skills of our people to be able to manage our own affairs. But as it stands now, you have your assets, you transfer it to some other company, they manage it, they get the knowledge of doing that, and your people will lose all that. So that is something that we'll have to do. When you do that, are you going to put our people there to ensure that they also learn side by side, so that even if those people go, we'll continue to do that on our own? Now, if we are talking about prudence, as the minister wants to convince us, I believe the example should come from the chief of state. But if you look at the budget of the chief of state, you see that most of the items are going up. For example, you will see that in terms of allocation, we allocated, was allocated $591.5 million last year, but the Office of the President ends up spending more than $831.5 million. That's not the example that we want to see if we want to cut down on wastage of resources. We expect that example from the Chief of State, but that's not a very good example. Two, we allocated $10 million for the President to meet the people. He could have gone once, he could have gone twice, but he ended up spending $25 million, and we are not yet in December, so it may even increase. That's also not a very good example. Now, it's the government that came up with the embargo on official travel to reduce cost. But the President's office was allocated $50 million for travel. But you end up spending $153.1 million instead of $50 million. So most of the items I see, the actuals are always more than what was allocated for the president's office. And the same goes for the vice president's office also. Check all the items. You know, most of the items, you will see the actuals are far more than what was allocated. That's not the example we are looking for. We are looking for an example from the chief of state so that all the other sectors can emulate that, so that we'll be able to reduce expenditure. Yes, Honorable Speaker, the revenue is expected to be increased by 24%. Can the minister tell us from which area would this revenue come from? We want to know exactly where this revenue will come from. We also, if you look at the revising the project grants downwards, which the minister mentioned, which was good, in my opinion, as a welcoming idea, but I believe we should do the same for the budget support. If we can revise the budget support, not to be too ambitious on budget support, because once you fail to receive any of this, it actually affects your disbursement, which will also derail the progress in project implementation. Because most of the time, the ministers will tell us, ministries or sectors will tell us, what we allocate for us, we just receive less than half of what you receive. And that is because of these projections, which were not reasonable. Also, Honorable Speaker, since we will have more time to scrutinize the budget next time, I believe we should ensure that wherever there is a budget suppression, we refuse that, as well as to ensure that we curtail expenditure. If you look at the budget, really, realistically, there are many places where there is suppression. We believe that what they could have collected, is more than what is being allocated. So if we can realistically look at the income of some of these other areas, help them to augment their revenue, that will also help us to really cut down on the deficit. Now, the overall capital expenditure has been decreased by 12%, according to the Honorable Minister. And according to him, that is as a result of the projected decrease in project grant disbursement from others, from donors. So it's the same. Capital expenditure is also very important. So if that is also curtailed, it means that it is going to really affect the objective of what we want to attain. Now, in terms of FPAC, FPAC did not review the budget of the Ministry of Information because the Ministry of Information did not come before FPAC. So I'm not sure whether that's a good practice. If they don't come before you, why don't you just take the opportunity to look at their budget? Education. They did not come. It's the education that did not come. And education has 3 or 4 billion. So if you don't look at it at all, I don't know. You want to say something? I thought you said information.
Chair, yeah, can I point? Huh? Because no, he wants to continue. Yeah. So observation, Honorable Speaker, if you allow. Okay. Thank you very much, the member for Woodley East. The Committee on Information actually reports to the Committee on Education. The Ministry of Information reports to the Committee on Education. But during the bilateral, they were scheduled but did not show up. So FPAC is just reporting as is indicated by the Committee on Education. So they did not report to FPAC, but they reported to the Committee on Education. And the Committee on Education is saying that they did not show up, so we didn't have any bilateral with them. Yeah.
Yes, so they did not show up before the committee, and the committee also did not look at their budget. Is that a good practice? I think if they don't come, you look at their budget. And if you see anything, an anomaly, you correct correct the anomaly. But if we just discard it, it means that we are not doing our scrutiny as expected. Yes, also, IEC. You said you made some cuttings from the IEC. I need a clarification on that, because we are told that IEC is part of the institutions that we are not supposed to touch. So if we touch them, would that not affect their operations? And we know we are preparing for another election cycle, and IEC has a lot of issues when we met with them. They are opening offices in the countryside, etc., etc. So also, the manpower budget is one area that we usually don't look at. I'm not sure whether FPAC has any opportunity to look at the manpower budget. When we go through it, sometimes we see a lot of anomalies. And also, we see that, Honorable Minister, what can we do about allowances overtaking salaries? Because we see that if you put the allowances together, usually in many places, they are more than the salaries. So I believe that that is another anomaly. We should reduce it. We should be able to reduce it. If we really want to take off, we should be able to reduce that. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Woolly East. I now invite the Honorable Member for Kiang West.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Today's deliberation debate, I think, is the most important session that we would foresee. As you always say, this document is the second most important document aside the Constitution. But members of Parliament, look at the flow of chambers at this point in time. It's definitely something that we should think about. Building a country takes a lot, and the members of Parliament should be at the forefront in doing this. We don't expect that in building this country, the economy, and anything about the health sector, the education, and all other sectors is what we should discuss today. Out of 58 members of Parliament, if you look at the flow of chambers, it's definitely not a good sign. And I think we should take the work of the country very serious. There is no other work a parliamentarian would have today which is more important than a budget debate. That's my view. There is no important that you would have at the level of constituency or however, that would be more important than this budget debate. But however, I think that's a challenge to ourselves to definitely, sometimes when I ask myself, I said, in fact, that study and all that I was doing, but is that the same thing others were doing? To look at the budget, the energy that we had at budget retreat? But however, Honorable Speaker, I have looked at few things in the budget which are very, very important for us to see. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Honorable Minister, if you look at the fiscal policies in terms of fiscal prudence, Honorable Minister is very good. Bringing in policies that ensures that we see leakages, we avoid revenue suppressions and all that. But his job is way beyond that. We have the economic growth component. This is why we have him as the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, so that we can be able to physically manage the resources that we generate to ensure that there is no suppression of revenue, we seal revenue leakages, as well as to build the economy either from the productive sector or we have it as private sector driven economic growth. But when you look at our budget from 2013, from 2023, 2022, 2023, coming down to now, our budget is not building an economy for us. Just look at these statistics, Honorable Speaker. Our budget, the total development budget as per 2024 projection, both GLF and from grants and loans, this constitutes 40.16% of our budget, development budget. And our country is committing only 13.83% of this total. Less than half of our development is what we want to and we can do. And we expect the rest to be done through grants and loans. This is not sustainable. The development of our country cannot be 75% anchored on loans and grants. This is why, Honorable Minister, I want you to tell us the amount of the projected grants in 2023 that was realized. The total grants for 2023, as per the estimate, was $16,325,803,000. How much was realized from this? We are in the 11th month of the year. How much was realized from this? And the loans, the total grant projection for 2024 is 12 billion. Now, for the realization when it comes to 2023, should be able to inform us to make a decision as far as grant is concerned in 2024. We should be able to know this. And remember, during the revision of the revised budget in 2022, what we were told, one of the reasons, not exactly the only reason, of revising the budget was non-realization of the international commitments. Those commitments were not realized. As a result, the budget has been revised. So the major development of our country cannot be anchored on this. Cannot be anchored on this. Honorable Minister, this budget that we are looking at from 2022 to 2023 to date is not building an economy for us. It is something percent of our budget, GLF, is going into salaries and operations. Salaries and operations. It is something percent is going into that. We are committing only 13% of our GLF, only 13% of our GLF into development. And if you look at some of the ministries, like Ministry of Water Resources, there has been an allocation of $10 million. Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources, allocation of $10 million for the drilling of boreholes in the needy communities. Some of the communities are still crying for water. 57, 58 years after independence, our people are still crying for water. Our budget cannot take care of that for us. And we said we're developing as a country. That's not possible. It is unacceptable to see that 10 million allocated to certain ministries, to the Ministry of Water Resources in 2023 was not disbursed until 2 weeks back. And what was disbursed was only $3.6 million. 58 years after independence, people are still crying for water. Water? Water to drink and cook? Honorable Minister, that is unacceptable. And we want to see that this fund was disbursed. But only 3.6 million is what was disbursed in this month, November. Please tell us what was the reason for this delay. Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker, the total budget deficit for 2023 was 3.9 billion. Honorable Speaker, for the total budget deficit as projected in 2024 is 4.4 billion. The higher the deficit, the more we go for loan. The more loans we take, the higher our debts. And this has implications on the debt interest payment. So we need to look at this. Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker is presenting us a budget. The money that we don't have. And this, we say this is what we want. And how do we expect to get the rest? This is what I want, and this is what we want to do, but we don't have the money. Man, if we need to use 29 billion, let Honorable Speaker give us 29, Honorable Minister give us 29 billion. This is what we need. 29 billion, this is what we need, and this is what we can have. But why are we giving that is 29 billion when GRA can only generate less than 20 billion? Where do we get the rest from? That is a question. Honorable Speaker, when you look at tax revenue as per 2024 projection is 17.2 billion. Tax revenue is 17.2 billion. In 2023, tax revenue, as per 2023 projection, was 13.9 billion. This is a huge jump. What has changed? What economic activity has changed in the country? That is going to help us to realize this. And as per your projection, what are the actuals? Because in the statement of the Honorable Minister, it was that in the first 3 quarters, as per the projection, of 9-point-something billion, they were able to get, GRA was able to collect 10.4 billion. What causes this? What has actually changed? Was there any economic activity that changed within the period that leads to an increment in this revenue, as per you projected in the first 3 quarters to collect 9 billion plus, and you went to collect 10.4 billion? I don't want to accuse by saying there was a revenue suppression. No, I don't want to do that. But we would definitely want to know what has changed that leads to this increment. And what economic activity has changed that you hope for, that will help us to realize tax revenue from 13 billion in 2023 to 17 billion. We have to know that. We have to know whether we will be able to get this or not. What investment has changed? What improvement do you have in the productive sector? We want Honorable Minister to definitely explain this to us, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the actuals that has been disbursed per each ministry, the actual that has been disbursed per each ministry in 2023, as a date, some are at 38%. 38% disbursement to these ministries. And we have 1 month to go. And the budgets of these very ministries are increased come 2024. But they are only able to get less than 50% of the allocation in November in this year. So how do we expect to give them more of this? Where are we going to get the funds from? Honorable Minister, I want to ask a question, Honorable Speaker. We don't have oil yet. We don't know if we have it. Our oil and diamond is our water, either the underground water and our river Gambia, which is endowed with fresh water. The foreign investors that are around the coast, that are using our river water, how much revenue do we generate from this? Because the more they harvest the fresh water from the river, the more the salt water intrudes our farmlands. And when that happens, then we will end up abandoning those farmlands for them, those rice fields for them. So what do we get from them? And they are harvesting these waters from the river. They are harvesting fresh waters from the river. Go around Sierra, this is happening there. Foreign investors that are having gardens and others that are drilling our underground water, what do we get from them? Is the Ministry of Water Resources getting something from this water drilling? Because our underground water, we cannot say it's forever. It can be exhausted. There are some countries, their underground waters are not good. Some are about exhausted. So what are we getting from this? They're having heavy boreholes. This should be an avenue of generating resources for this country. We want to know whether we generate resources from these waters that these people harvest from our rivers to use on their agricultural purposes, and those that are also using boreholes, heavy boreholes, to drill underground water. What revenue do we generate from this? Honorable Speaker, Fisheries Development Fund. I want Honorable Minister to tell us about the Fisheries Development Fund, the way of disbursement of the Fisheries Development Fund, and how much has been disbursed into the development of the fisheries sector. For the Honorable Minister to tell us about the Fisheries Development Fund and how much has been disbursed for the development of the fisheries sector. Honorable Speaker, I also want to know, because the fees for the toll bridges is put in a lump sum, because Honorable Minister is bringing a policy for asset recycling of the Senegambia Bridge, so it would be prudent if we know the actual collection of revenue from Senegambia Bridge annually. Then we can make a decision as members of parliament. But this is put in a lump sum where the toll bridges are, so we will be able to know the disintegrated figure so that we know how much is generated from the Senegambia Bridge. Then we can take an informed decision as per recycling of the bridge, and that can build our economy. Because if you recycle the bridge, you have $100 million today. Are you going to pump that into the productive sector to build your economy, or are you going to take it back to the services to fund your recurrent and other things? We are just going to finish the money, but it's not going to generate anything for us. So we should be sure of what you do with the fund when you want to recycle the bridge, and how much you get from this bridge annually. We should be able to ascertain that to make an informed decision about the recycling process. Honorable Speaker, mining and quarrying is another issue that we should look at. Mining and quarrying should be a productive sector for us. If Minister of Petroleum or Geology Department is taking good care of the environment for us. People are mining everywhere in the country. How much do we get from this? Do we have an effective resource management as far as mining and quarrying is concerned? Because it helps us to generate funds. When it gets to the fisheries sector, if you look at the funds that we get from the EU Gambia Fishing Agreement for 2023 was zero. And for 2024, you have a projection about 900 million or something like that. If you can put me through, how much do we expect to get from this? These foreign investors are in our waters to do fishing. How much do we get from this? Are these good agreements for us? We don't just need funds, but we need to ensure that the fish population of our river is sustainable for us. You go to Tangier today, you want to buy fish, $400, $500, for the average Gambians cannot buy it. And the monies that we are getting from these people as tax is not also helping us. So we need to look at these agreements. And what is the plan from the ministry to ensure that all these things are looked at so that we manage the little resources that we have. Our resources is our water, our farmland, and our river. And it seems like people are using these things and we are not getting much from it. We cannot just say they have built us one cold store, and how much do they get if they build us one cold store? Honorable Speaker, I think there is need, if we want to sustainably manage the little resources that we have, to do a proper civil service audit. Particularly these two institutions are mentioned without fear of contradiction. National Assembly and the Office of the President, to ensure that everyone who is on the payroll are doing the work, and they are not just there as staff or to come and sit at the end of the day, they go home and you pay us our money at the end of the month. It's not acceptable. It's unfair. Let's do a proper civil service audit. We know that anybody who is on the payroll of the government is working, and this is what the person does, and we look at the performance of that individual and we convert it to productivity. I think there is need to do that. The vehicle policy, as mentioned by FPAC, this is a very important policy that we should look at. We're giving vehicles to people. I think this example should be set by us, ministers and members of parliament, permanent secretaries. We cannot give somebody a vehicle. We fuel your vehicle for you. We give you a driver. We give you the security. We do the maintenance for you. It's not sustainable, and we are doing it. And I want the Honorable Minister to tell us the class of civil servants who are given vehicles, and we are doing this maintenance for them. How many vehicles are they giving? So that we can take an informed decision as a members of parliament to say, from a minister, anybody who is going to be given a vehicle, permanent secretary, deputy permanent secretary, you give it to you in a loan scheme, you service the loan 50%, you do your fuel, you do your maintenance, you take your driver, you're on. This is why I tell some of the drivers, when I was this, I told them, go and find a job, because it is not sustainable. Your drivers are going, your employers are going to release you one day, because the monies they are having cannot sustain them and their families. So they're going to release you. I told some of the drivers, they thought I was threatening them. No, because this is how the budget is driving us. The little that you have might not be able to sustain you, much more maintaining a driver you employ. So we need to look at this. These are potential economic issues that we need to look at. If we want to have an economic that is sustainable, we have a country that is more peaceful, more prosperous, and more just. Economic sector must be built up so that our country rely on that, but not just only on tax. Honorable Minister, I want us to have a look at this. This forum should be a dialogue and a consultative discussion to see how best we build an economy of this country, because the way it is going, it is scary. It is very much scary. 86% of our funds that we generate is going into salaries and operations. Where do we want to develop? Honorable Minister, the government is expecting to spend $13 per each individual as per 2024 budget when it comes to health. $13, that's what the budget projects. $13 per individual when it comes to health services in 2024, 12 months of the year. How much do you expect? $13, if you convert it as per central bank rate, is about $750. Taxi from Burfoot to Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital is more than $1,000 if you have a patient. And when you go there, you need to also buy drugs. We need to look at this. So this is why somebody said a budget is life and death of an individual. This is why when we were unable to have a lab to test drugs, the drugs killed children in this country. If it was in the budget, we had that lab, we were not going to get into that. So budget is life and death of a country. We should be able to resolve that. Honorable Speaker, there are a lot that has to be addressed, and there are a lot of speakers that also want to come in and look at 2024 budget, but I want to challenge my colleague honorable members that this is a serious business, and we have to take it serious to ensure that we look at the budget critically, we ensure that every part of the budget is going into right places so that we can perform a right oversight. This is why when we go for oversight, some members of the parliament would not know how much is allocated to the ministry you are performing oversight on, how much is going into that, because of the participation during the during the budget preparation and the passing of the budget. Honorable Speaker, I also want to come to road projects. Honorable Minister, it is important we look at road projects under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. The roads that are started, can we conclude those roads before we get into new projects? Because there are other roads that have started implementation, and even the disbursement of the funds about what the contractors have done 3 months ago are not disbursed to them yet. The ministry is owing them, or the government is owing the contractors of the roads that are ongoing, and we want to start new roads again. It's not feasible, it's not going to work. Let's look at the RBF and the implementation of the insurance on the Ministry of Health. The insurance, the health insurance on the Ministry of Health, we want to know the source of funds for this. Where do you want to get source of fund? Where do you want to get fund to implement the insurance? We want to know if it is sustainable or not. Because we have realized that the RBF, the resource-based finance, is helping our health sector very well, let me tell you. You go to health centers, you find that staff quarters, toilets, and other facilities are built from RBF. And it is ensuring that the patients are seen and they are delivered effective and quality service. If you want to hold that RBF for the interest of the insurance, it's not sustainable, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Health should be very sincere to the President and say, look, this is a very good plan, but for now it's not sustainable. We have a hard RBF that is helping the health sector. The health sector. If you remove RBF for the health insurance, believe me, in the next 3 months, you will have the health sector crippled, and the government cannot do it everything. So let's allow the RBF to continue until the project elapses in 2025. Then we look at the sustainable measures of having the RBF within our budget. Within the budget. We have the RBF within the budget. It's better than having the health insurance, because what the RBF is doing is quite great. We have done a serious research and a survey and discussed with most of the health institutions across the length and breadth of the country. And we realized that RBS is more efficient and gives us more quality health service. So please, we are begging of you. I am begging, and I think the health committee will support me in this submission to ensure that we have RBF in place. Because once we do away with RBF and we substitute it with health insurance, it is not going to help us, and our health sector is going to cripple. Honorable Minister, with this, Honorable Speaker, with this little remark, I beg to take my seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kiang West. Unfortunately, honorable members, the honorable member looked around and held all of us to account. Then members are not taking the debate on the budget seriously, basically. Whilst I know that members can go in and out, some members may be probably doing some few things outside and coming in and out. If that comes from an honorable member, then we should look inwardly ourselves and try to improve. I now call upon the honorable member for Opanyumi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, let me first of all thank the Honorable Minister for fulfilling the constitutional requirement of laying the 2024 budget before this August Assembly, and also thank the FPAC for doing a wonderful job on behalf of the Assembly and ably tabling this explicit report before the members. Honorable Chair for FPAC, thank you so much. Honorable Speaker, my deliberation will be confined to agriculture. Honorable Minister, I want to tell the Honorable Minister that, Honorable Speaker, I want to tell the Honorable Minister that agriculture is underbudgeted, seriously underbudgeted as far as DLF is concerned. And if we are serious as a country to attain self-food sufficiency, money or resources must be given to agriculture to address our local needs. And Honorable Speaker, a Department of Agriculture alone, which has the extension arm of agriculture, it has the agri-engineering, planning, food technology unit, soils and water management unit, phytosanitary component, agri-engineering, pest and disease control unit, and all the regional directors in the Gambia are under this particular department. They are given an allocation of only $500,000 a month. Honorable Speaker, these are the people responsible of disseminating the information, technologies, or whatsoever should move the agriculture of this country forward. And they're not given any resource from Gambia government, no program, no money to give it to farmers, only relying on the projects. Honorable Speaker, that cannot make this country to attain the self-food sufficiency. And all the problems we are highlighting here, being health, being lack of resource, it can be addressed through agriculture. It can be addressed through agriculture because when the food is available and it's of quality, we are assured of our health. And when we are healthy, we are going to deliver. The country will move forward. Honorable Speaker, when you go to all the institutions that are subvented institutions under agriculture, that's NARI, Department of Livestock Services, Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency, West African Livestock Innovation Center, National Seed Secretariat. Honorable Speaker, these subvented institutions, only their salaries are taken care. Only their salaries are taken care. Research and development is allocated only $2.something million just to conduct research in the whole of the Gambia. If NARI, which is the only research institution of this country, is given $2.something million to conduct their research activity, how can we move the agriculture sector forward in this country? Honorable members. Honorable member for Brikama South said it here. The only significant increment or contribution we realize from agriculture, which is factored in the budget, is from livestock subsector. In the livestock subsector, Department of Livestock Services, Gilma and Wali, which are the driving force, they are not giving anything as far as development is concerned. Honorable Minister. And we talk about projects. The projects in agriculture are tailor-made. Are tailor-made, meaning that they are superimposed. They are given to them to implement the donor's desire. That cannot make this country forward. That cannot move this country forward as far as agriculture is concerned. Honorable members, we have to produce a national requirement of our food that we need as a country to feed our people. And that cannot be attained without allocating more resources to agriculture, honorable members. And that's why when you talk about food security, meaning that the country has to produce more to feed its population and the livestock. But in an event you cannot produce a national requirement, that's where DGC comes into play. They make sure that they supply the gap to make it available. And if DGC is supplying the gap, meaning that they have to ensure that the food is available and it's of quality and it's affordable. That's what they are doing. Honorable Minister, this particular institution is doing little to execute their core mandate, as far as that particular institution is concerned. So we are asking you as a Honorable Minister to join with the Minister of Agriculture to renegotiate these projects and to make sure that they address our local needs. That's what is more important. Otherwise, the way they are superimposed on them, on us, we are not achieving anything as far as our drive towards food security is concerned. Honorable Speaker, in this field, Mark, thank you so much for giving me the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Upper Nyumi. I now invite the Honorable Member for Kombo East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I must commend the FPAC committee for coming up with a summary report on the budget of the upcoming year, 2024. Honorable Speaker, I have some few observations that I want the Honorable Minister to make clarities onto. That is, it seems to be cloudy on me, the trend at which the revenues keep increasing by percentage. And looking at the economy today, getting into our national markets and international markets, knowing that Gambia is doing very little in the international markets as compared to other countries, the growth becomes a surprise. And also looking into our local trade market, we expect that the tax revenues that are to be generated would be on services that would affect the consumers directly. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I found it to be very worrying by the way the trend at which the revenue increased by percentage year in, year out, and seeing very little impact on the economical growth of individuals who are directly affected with this growth. Honorable Speaker, by looking at the 2023 market display and the economical structure of our businesses in the markets, it doubts me and worries me very well that if we are to boast of an increased revenue base in taxes at this rate, it's an alarming rate. And on that note, Honorable Speaker, I would want the Honorable Minister to take note of this growth, knowing that inflating these figures and bloating them out for societies to absorb might have a repercussion, and it might affect us in the near future. Honorable Speaker, considering that we've seen a growth in the gross domestic product, in the GDP, from 130 to 174. This is a laudable growth, looking at the figures, but also in actual terms, it has been bloated by increased tax revenue and non-taxable revenue.
Honorable, 130 what?
130 billion to 174 billion.
You state that, because if you state just 130.
Sorry. 130 billion increased to 174 billion. Looking at the figures, it looks to be very commending. But then getting into the ingredients within, it has shown that we've exaggerated our figures by making it beautiful. But then looking at the actuals here, the revenue is being increased by percentage. And we need a justification of these tax revenues that are increased. Where are the sources? Where are we getting them from? And the realities of these, the chances of it to be achieved 100%. Again, looking at the deficit base, it has raised from 3.933 billion to 4.45 billion. And looking at these figures, there is a big disparity. Also, if you look at this thing, it has now attracted a huge domestic borrowing. And this domestic lending had also brought in realistic and then on reliable foreign exchange base, because most of our commodities are exported, are being imported from the outside. We have very little to export. These are the observations that I had, Honorable Speaker, to put before the Honorable Minister to give me some clarities. On the general observation of the whole budget, it could have been much better if I had gotten this revised budget sheet before today. But in looking at it in summary, it has given me that there need to be so many points to consider on, like looking into the Ministry of Finance. The percentage at which the increment has been made is like we are trying to, the budget is trying to explain that there is more attractions and incentives for revenue collectors. And in this, if you compare the two, that is the allowances attached to these collectors and their salaries, and the returns that they give to the government as revenue, if there is any comparison, the rate at which the ministry is increasing its budget, it's also something that worries me. So I need clarity on this. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I beg to take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kombo East. I now invite the Honorable Member for Nyanija.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. And I equally want to thank all committees for the budget bilateral and, of course, ministries, departments, and agencies for coming. Not all of them, though. And particular thank to the FPAC going the extra mile and then coming up with this wonderful report. We really appreciate the work. And not forgetting our right lieutenants, that is the secretaries, because whatever that we do at the end of the day, if it is not written, it means no work has been done. So thank you very much for the services you are rendering to us. Honorable Speaker, what we are debating here is the report of the FPAC, and of course with emphasis on the budget. That was the draft estimate that was presented before us here by the Minister of Finance. Honorable Minister, thank you very much also for fulfilling your constitutional mandate, dictated by the Constitution and the Public Finance Act. And now the ball is in our court to look at it, scrutinize, and of course pass it with amendments, because I believe there is no budget that will ever pass here without amendments. Thank you very much, everybody. Honorable Speaker, my emphasis will be on the Ministry of Health, and I'll be very short. I wouldn't take much time, I promise. First of all, if you look at the budget for the Ministry of Health, I want to thank the Minister of Finance, of course, increasing the budget line for drugs under National Pharmaceutical Services. From last year, it was 100 million. Now, I'm seeing 240 million. This is a very laudable initiative that you've come with. And as representative of the people, and of course, as chair of the Health Committee, we really want to thank you for that, because drugs are sought everywhere. If you go, they will tell you drugs are not available. I'm just from my constituency. I've been to the hospital. Of course, you see patients, most of the drugs are not available. That is a fact. But I think with coming up with this increased allocation, we'll sort out these issues. Despite they have submitted a proposal of 338 million, but they're able to get 240. I think it's something that is laudable. So, Honorable Minister, thank you very much for that. We have issues, especially with personal emoluments, and then this is included as it is indicated in the FPAC report. Personal emolument, especially with hospitals, Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital and Bundung Maternal and Child Hospital. I think this is an issue that we personally discussed with the Minister of Finance last year, but I think these issues keep coming up. Honorable Minister, I think you need to sit down with the Minister of Health, especially with the hospitals to sort out these issues, because every year they keep complaining that they are under-budgeted with regards to PE for their staffs at the FSTH and, of course, at the Bundung Madana Hospital. And I think this is something that can be solved between you and them without even involving us, because personal emolument, these are statutory things that have to be paid to every employee as far as we are concerned. The next thing that I will go into is the National Health Insurance Scheme. Of course, there is an act passed by Parliament here, and then establishing an authority that is the National Health Insurance Authority. And if you look at the budget, last year something was budgeted like 36 million for the operations of the authority, and this year the same amount is also budgeted. But the question that is still not answered, and even me, I don't know the direction in which we are heading to as far as the National Health Insurance Scheme Authority is concerned, it's the sources of funds for the scheme. There are specified provisions in the Act that says these are the sources of funds. But as far as the budget is concerned, every year I looked at it, but I have not seen anything that is forthcoming as far as this funds for the scheme is concerned. So, Honorable Minister, the ball lies in your court to explain to this August Assembly what is the fate of the National Health Insurance Scheme, because it's an act that was passed here, and then still people are employed. They have been paid salary the whole of 2023, and the whole of 2024, we are budgeting for their salaries again, but we are not seeing any funds for them to operationalize the scheme. I understand there is support from the World Bank that they want to start piloting at Bundung, but hope this is sustainable, and I hope and pray that we have to start thinking inward and see what can be done. I also understand some of the sources identified in the Act cannot be realized because already they are earmarked for other government revenue lines. So, and according to experts, you cannot double appropriate. That's a fact. But I think we have to go back to the drawing board and see what is possible, whether we are going with the insurance or whether we are not going with it. These questions need to be answered, and I think it needs to be answered immediately before we pass this budget so that we know the direction we are going in that regard. And then this also takes me to the issue of the RBF. That is something that is very important. And as representative of the people, we've gone around to almost many facilities within the country, both in the urban area and in the rural area. We've seen the impact this project have done. And in fact, now it is not a project, it's a program under the Ministry of Health. And of course, they are also receiving support from the World Bank with some support from local funds. But as we speak today, there are directives written from the Ministry of Health that the RBF is not continuing, is stopping. Now they are transitioning to the health insurance. And insurance, which you know that we don't even know where we are heading to because they have no funds to implement this scheme. This is the truth, these are the facts, and every member needs to know this so we know where we are heading to. The importance of insurance cannot be overemphasized because it is the new directive as far as health financing is concerned. But we have to be realistic, we have to be frank whether we can do it or not because it requires a lot of resources. Of course, others will also argue we don't need much resources to implement the insurance. We just have to look at inward and see how best we can change the narratives. Like, for instance, the issue of insurance. If I insure your facility, let's say Bundung, you give services to patients, it's the responsibility of the scheme to subsidize you, pay you to be able to buy certain things. But again, if you look at it from the national budget, we are budgeting for everything that the hospital is supposed to give to our people, like buying drug supplies and so on, despite they are not enough. So it's something we that we have to think and then rethink again and see how best we implement it. But the ball lies in your court, the Honorable Minister for Finance, and of course the Honorable Minister for Health, for you to tell us something which that we should know. Because for the RBF, it is something that we can't just sit down and see it being stopped like that. We understand these are policy decisions. But things which they are affecting directly our people, especially with regards to service delivery. If you go to all the health facilities within the country, you see the impact, infrastructural development, purchase of drugs, giving intense incentives to staffs for them to stay on their posting area. These are all good initiatives that this program is doing. But stopping it for another program, which myself, I don't know, I think is something that we should look at, and we have to be realistic to one another. So moving on, Honorable Speaker, Medicine Control Agency. This is an issue that has been discussed here last year and it still keep coming. First of all, I want to thank the minister for at least giving them the leverage to be spending some of their internally generated revenue. But the communication, according to them, only stopped from at December, end of this year. I don't know, maybe that is the how it is done. Like every year you tell them spend until December, then in the upcoming year we see what we can do. But I think we should sort it out, and I think we had discussions with the Minister of Finance for us to settle this thing. They have some internal generated revenues, make sure everything is accountable for. They spend some of these things because we understand this is an inspectorate, quality assurance and inspectorate agency. They need monies, and we can't budget for everything that they're supposed to do. Because we understand the cake, the national cake is not sufficient for all these things. So please give them the leverage to be spending some of these things, but of course emphasize on the issue of accountability. And as an oversight committee, we will do the needful when the time comes to. So, Honorable Minister, please take note of that. And then last but not the least, this is the issue of testing drugs. As we speak, we have promised that I think it's also in process that the World Bank is supporting the Ministry of Health to establish a lab, and I think the initiative have gone far. They have done the concept, the land is identified, and so on. But in the meantime, in the interim, the Medicine Control Agency is just requesting an amount of $30 million. This is an amount that we cannot include in our report because for us, we respect the agreement we have as far as the retreat was concerned. That's why we didn't include this. But they are requesting an amount of just $30 million is for them to equip the national laboratory that we have here at Kotu, for them to be buying some of these reagents and be doing some of this basic testing of drugs to ensure there is safety for drugs when they are imported, rather than sending them all the way to India and other countries to do the testing. And I think this is something we can do as a temporal measure before the lab is fully established and operational. So, Honorable Minister, please take note. And Honorable Speaker, that's my submission. Thank you very much. The rest we do it at the Committee of Supply.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Nyaniga. I now invite the Honorable Member for Jesua.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for coming. And also thank you very much to the FPAC committee and other committees who are working on the budget during the bilaterals. Honorable Speaker, let me start from the House that we are in today. We are here talking about the budget that we should look at properly and debate on for our own people that send us here to represent them as representative. This is a day that the House will be at. The House should have not been have any empty seat today. Everybody should be seated to debate on this budget. Because it's about the country, if you want to move this country forward. We tasked the expert committee to work on this budget. They spend both days and night here. If you have issues, we sit and raise it here. But not the way it happens today. It's very sad. As a National Assembly member, representing my own people, to see my colleagues now leaving this House. Based on what? Should this continue? When I'm not interested, I leave. When it's not in my favor, I leave. Then next minute, nobody will not be in this House. This is a House we should argue, we should sit and discuss and come to conclusion. But not any time we park and move. That's not correct. Let's change our attitudes. Honorable Speaker, coming to the Ministry of Finance, I will start from there. I think I have a question for the Minister, because we had bilaterals. And anytime we sit, we discuss with our line ministries, they always complain about the ceiling. How do you come to the ceiling, Honorable Minister? How do you decide on the ceiling to say this ceiling should be fit for A, B, C, and D ministry? That's a concern that a question I want an answer. Honorable Minister, looking at our economic growth, we are almost between 3 to 6% for the past 20 years, not at 10% up to date. What is the problem? What can lead us there? And coming on the same economic growth, it's like out of 44% of this country are living under 1.25% dollar per day. Where are we as a country? Honorable Minister, coming to the revenue aspect of it, I've seen on tax from 13.9 to 17.2, and non-tax from 2.9 to 5.5. Honorable Minister, to be honest, keep it up. We expect them to collect more than this when things are done in the right way. We should not be sitting down here all the time waiting on grants to balance our budget. We can collect those taxes here. And Honorable Minister, I have a question for you. Companies are coming in this country. They are giving contracts. They are giving all what it takes to make their life at where they come from. And at the end of the day, the most part of people that they employ in this country are within the range of drivers and laborers within from this country. And they are going home without paying tax. Why is it happening, Honorable Minister? Why is it happening? Why are we taxing those poor teachers? Why are we taxing those poor security officers? Why are we taxing our own Gambian people who didn't have much to take home? And we are leaving people going with billions without being taxed. Why, Honorable Minister? If we want to control our tax-based revenue, we must be serious with the way we collect. We must ask people to pay tax on time and pay the right figure that they're supposed to pay. We used to have the VAT tax. Is it happening still now? How do we calculate it? During our bilaterals, when we sit and discuss on bilaterals, what we only discuss about, how do I spend? But how do I bring, it's a big question. How do we manage to bring more revenue? It is now time we start thinking of how do we get from 0 to 10 on the way we collect our tax. But every time we come here, yes, we are tax-based revenue. We are countries depend on tax. But if we are not improving on those tax issues, where are we heading to as a country? The last time you came here, that the grant that we were expecting, not everything was available. How were we able to manage up till now when those grants were not here? That's the question that I'm asking the Honorable Minister. When those grants were not here, and I know that 100% of them are not around, how were we able to manage to be here where we are today? We need to know. Because these are things that need to change this country. But not always be giving grants that we are asked to use on places that we don't want to use it. Another question is, have we ever rejected grants given to us and we are saying that no, we are not interested? Do we ever reject grants given to us? Because they are not given to us, that can address our problem. They only give us grants for the sake of giving us grants, as the NAB from Opanyomi said. If you go to the agri sector, there are a lot of grants in the agri sector. But are those grants here to solve our problems? Have you ever rejected those grants to say no to those grants because we are not interested? I think it is now high time for us to start saying no to grants when they are not here to give us an impact in our population. It's important. Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker, I think we need to look at our economy very well and know that the way things are going, we need to look at our level, where our economy is. What can we do to change things? We have been subventing institutions. Should we continue subventing them all the time? Let me start with the Minister of Health, per se. Anytime you go to the hospital, you pay a token of $25 and you expect to be given everything. If it's not available, you end up spending outside the hospital. Instead of spending, you end up spending outside the hospital. Honorable Speaker, I think it is high time for the Honorable Minister to come with something that we think that can sustain this institution, than not giving them money all the time. You go to the hospital, they give you paracetamol per se. You go outside and buy drugs and you spend more than $3,000-4,000 on an outside pharmacy. Why not you maintain those drugs at the hospital and ask the poor person to pay 70% of the cost? And the government pay the other 30%. Then try to see it as you can do it all. When you cannot do it all, we cannot do it all. It's only in this small poor country that we see and we want to have health free. It's not possible. We don't have free health. We must pay for the drugs. Let's look for a way out how we can circumvent the drugs that are being sold outside. Even tests, to do tests at the hospital, you must go outside the hospitals. The machines are there. The agents are not there. You go outside and pay $3,000-4,000 for a single test. When the chemistry analyzer is there, the material analyzer are also at the hospital. We still want to go outside and pay. Honorable Minister, I think it is high time you sit as a team with the Minister of Health and look at this thing properly. If you want to move as a country, we must look at our revenue base, the way we collect our revenue. But not to let it go and then give it to the outsiders. Go to this pharmacy near the RVTH. They are queuing there every day. You see the poor farmer from the provinces coming to the hospital with your escort. You expect to feed that person at the hospital and also yourself. And next minute, you go to the pharmacy and spend $3,000 a day. Is it possible? It's not possible. This is why people are complaining. Honorable Minister, let's look for a solution out of this. So vet them, give them the medication at the hospital. Let's sell this medication at the hospital and keep the hospital moving. The doctors are leaving because they are not well paid. We educate them, next minute they are gone. Some have been paying them, paying for their tuition fees, and after completion, they go. How many doctors are we losing now? Because they are not receiving enough. And this hospital could have kept them if we do the right thing. Let's motivate our young doctors. In the provinces, there are no medical doctors. Why are they not going? You compare their salaries. Going to the provinces, they pay you less than what they are paying you here when you are within the combos. Instead, they should pay you more. What's the problem? All hospitals are on the board. Are they helping? Are these boards helping? How to generate funds? What can we do to keep this hospital moving? We said no ambulance in a hospital. When millions are being spent outside the hospital, just for consultation, you pay $25. A doctor sees you, checks you, and tells you your problem. And you go outside and spend a lot of thousands outside. Is that fair? It's not fair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think it's important, Honorable Speaker, we look at our education sector. Either the minister wasn't here, I don't know the reason why he wasn't here. But the same game is happening there again. When school opens, teachers are in the classroom and they cannot teach. Because they don't have the material to teach. Before we used to pay what? Development fund. Before you start school. If those fees are cut, maintain the development fund. That can help them for a start when schools open. If the SIGs are not coming, they are late to come, they are late to be given to schools. So they sit and wait. Why are we always giving out, when we can at least try to cut those spending a bit? Let's bear the cost as parents. Not everything on government. Government cannot do it alone. And let that be very clear. Before we pay everything before you go to school. We pay everything before you go to school. But now everything is free. And still now you cannot have good education. What's the problem? When you used to have your table and chair and go to school, you struggle to go to school with your table and chair, school are opening. Now everything is free for you. And still that's the problem. I think we need to look at the quality that we are currently having. And I think definitely push it to the way teachers are being motivated. Because if you are not properly motivated, there is fist money waiting for you at home. Will you be able to take it in the class? It'll be difficult. If the doctors are overused, because currently we are overusing our doctors. Because we don't have enough. Because they are not well paid. So they must go outside to look for money. And with that help, no Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, coming to the Minister of Interior, this is I told the Minister the last time that you are the most luckiest ministry I can say. You have the
Honorable Member, you address the Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, sorry. You have the Interior Ministry, you have the Immigration Department. They are generating revenue. I asked a question to the head that if you are motivated, can you collect more than this? She said, yes, we can collect more than this. Honorable Speaker, I think it is important we look at those departments to see how we can motivate them for them to collect more. That not every time subventing them. We're going to be giving them money when they are collecting. Sit and discuss with them and tell them how much can you collect. And from there, look at their emoluments and then take it out from there. That not all the time, GRA putting the pressure on GRA to be going out and collecting and also giving them out. This is why you're having a problem. This is why there's a problem, Honorable Speaker. Because any minister that comes here complains that I am receiving less. If I ask for 1 million, I am giving 200,000. If I ask for 2 million, I'm giving 500,000. Because you are giving based on what is collected. And enough is not collected, much is not given. Honorable Speaker, I think coming to the Minister of Higher Education, I think it's important, Honorable Speaker. Let me quote MD as an example and GTI. GTI and MDI are still giving money. And they are still receiving money from students. Honorable Speaker, I think it is high time you sit with, let this Honorable Minister sit with these areas. Discuss and discuss with them. Can we subvent you for a period of 3 years and stop subventing you? Can you take care of yourself? Instead of government giving you all the time, from what you are collecting, start to pay your staff, take care of your learning materials, then not keep on giving them money all the time. Will that continue? We cannot be giving her all the time when it's not there. Education, health, these areas are very expensive. Minister of Agriculture. Honorable Speaker, I think our next budget, when it comes here, we might even slice it more than the amount that is given this year. Because that ministry should be the ministry that can change the narrative of this country. How many grants are coming to that ministry? How many grants are coming to that ministry? Are the poor farmers feeling it? No. What can we do now? We have the land, we have the river, and yet still we are still struggling. Even vegetable, we have to import. In our own country. Honorable Speaker, it is time for the Ministry of Agriculture to stand up and know that it is time to change. For how many years money is given to the Ministry of Agriculture? No changes. We always come with operation A, B, C, and D. Based on A, B, C, and D. All this, nothing was realized. When will we start seeing things? When will we start filling the budget? When will we start saying that this year's budget, the population will definitely fill the budget now? When? We say we want to reduce the deficit. It's going to be difficult to reduce the deficit. Even if we reduce all the quantities and reduce the deficit, next year it will go. The debt referral, Honorable Minister, I asked the question. You defer those debts. Till when? After the deferral, after the 5 years of the deferral, what are we expecting? Are we expecting a rise in interest? Will that also help the deficit next year? I think we need to look at things properly and then see how best we can reduce the debt. And I want an explanation on how much we are owing, why are we owing, and when did we start owing. If you look at the domestic debt, it's like government is competing with the private sector. The domestic debt has gone from 2.1 to 4.3. There's a big gap. So it's like government is now competing with the private sector. Honorable Speaker, I think it is high time for the Honorable Minister to see how best they can protect this private sector. Because they are also contributing towards the country. They are also contributing towards the economy of this country. You go to the banks. You took a loan. What is the interest rate? Very high. And next minute, you put in your collateral. They start calling you and start selling your compound. How best can you protect the private sector, Honorable Speaker? Our foreign currency, Honorable Speaker. This is a country where our foreign currency is not controlled. If central banks give $10, you go to the outside market, you see there are $12. Let the governor come out and explain to us the reason why what is happening. Let's have one center where we target to change our currency. But in any area you go in this country, there are shops everywhere. Then how can you control the foreign currency? If there is no control on the foreign currency, you cannot control the price. If we don't have foreign currency, where are we heading to? We must go outside and buy to import with foreign currency. We don't use dollars. But if the dollars is not controlled, if the foreign currency is not controlled, the dollars will always be going down. Honorable Speaker, I think it is high time for the Honorable Minister of Finance to sit and discuss and look at a way out for this problem. Because anywhere you go in this country, you have forex bureaus everywhere. Under one license with 10 forex bureaus, one license. And most of them are not people from this country. Where is the money going to? You can go out of this bank and go outside and have a $1 million to change as a foreign currency. Outside the banks. Then where is the control? I think we need to be very serious and regulate this foreign currency and reduce this forex bureaus. To have a point, we came from Botswana. The day we arrived in Botswana, it was very hard to change your dollar to their currency because there were no black markets. But today from my house, I can call me that full amount to come and change my money for me. It's not correct. Let's control our foreign currency, Honorable Speaker. Let there be control. If that happens, at least it will reduce the deficit. And then we can control our money. Honorable Speaker, I know I've taken time, but just to conclude, the last one is about the Minister of Interior on the drug squad or the Drug Enforcement Agency. Honorable Speaker, every day we are complaining about drugs. It's coming in the country. Our youth are taking drugs. Our youth are killing each other. Just last week in Maninaring, somebody committed suicide because he wanted to use the bag and the family wasn't helping. Honorable Speaker, what is given to the Drug Enforcement Agency, is it enough to take care of their needs? How can you fight a millionaire with $1? Because those who are bringing in drugs in this country are not poor people. They are people with millions of dollars that wants to make ends meet, to add it on what they have. And now you want to send a poor man like me to go and apprehend them? Then corruption starts somewhere. What can we do to motivate them? Their base are always sliced. And when they ask, they are given not what they are given. I'm very much concerned about the drug squad. Because our youth of today, honestly, at the end of the day, there will be a problem. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, I'm appealing to you to tighten your belt. You'll be blamed. You'll be labeled. They will call all sorts of names. Do what is right for us to save this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Yeswang. Honorable members, I have seen a lot of eyes, especially from the mid-gathers, looking at me intently in my eye, meaning, of course, that people want to go and pray and have their food. It's almost 4 o'clock. We will suspend sessions until 5 o'clock. When we pray, we just come back. You will have had your lunch, you will have had your prayers, and we come back at 5 o'clock. Am I right? Is that okay? Yeah. Now the House is now suspended until 5 o'clock, 5 p.m.
Agada.
Okay, mbijan ro aga nyaade.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyenje.
Okay. Korsana. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. Agada.
Mbijan ro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara Allah service o tariaka.
mbale.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola sota Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere to. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi manin domorol dil fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bu kanila ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.